Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 34. It's Joe here. Today we're going to have a deeper insight into Carl Jung's insight into human behavior, which is all perception is projection. I really want to take some time in explaining this because this is one of the most misunderstood aspects of human behavior. For those of us who are into personal development, spiritual development, we often hear this, that what we see in another person is a projection of what's within us. That what triggers us the most is something that's within us. If you're whatever you admire and love about a hero of yours, it's a projection of your inner gold. As Robert Johnson, the famous, if you don't know him, I guess he's not that famous, but Robert Johnson, the highly regarded Jungian psychologist. So Carl Jung, just very briefly, he existed at the peak of his career in the 1920s. He wrote many, many books. And he was the founder of psychoanalytic psychology. He was the creator of transpersonal psychology. He was a mystic. He was known to have had multiple near-death experiences. So he certainly experienced a wide range of altered states of consciousness, and just an amazing guy. His original texts are quite hot and heavy to read. So I often... I recommend his books, but with mild trepidation, only because they are so difficult to read. But his work is amazing. And perception is projection is misunderstood. It's like, does that mean everywhere that I go, all I see is a mirror of me? Well, kind of, sort of, yeah. But let me explain it. That's what I want to take some time in going through in this particular episode. So what happens is, of course, when we're born, we are already whole and complete. And as children, as we go into the school system, the current school system that exists, and I'm talking mainstream school system, is that what happens is, as children, consciously or unconsciously, we're desperate to fit in. And what we'll do is we will dump aspects of ourselves that we don't perceive to be useful in belonging or being part of that group. So now these emotions or these aspects of ourselves that we dump don't get left behind. They just get left in the unconscious mind, in the subconscious, or whatever you want to call it, that area of our mind that is outside of our conscious awareness. So what happens is the goodness in us, or the great qualities in us, if we don't believe that that's useful in us fitting in, we'll dump that. The anger and the darkness and the rage, or all these other sort of more unresourceful, I guess you could say, emotions get dumped as well, because if we do those emotions, we don't get accepted. So, how popular is the angry person in the room? Not very popular at all, just to give you an example. I remember as a kid dumping the goodness in me, like the kindness and the goodness, because I noticed that when I was kind and good in primary school and in early secondary school, I would be either teased, taken advantage of, or ignored. So I dumped the goodness and the kindness and all that kind of those kinds of qualities, because it wasn't helping me fit into the tribe of the school. So instead, I did what every other kid. When I say every other kid, that's not entirely accurate at all. But I did what I thought I had to do to fit in. So if I had to be nasty, I'd be nasty. If I could tease a kid and be accepted by the majority of the classroom, I would do that. I mean, that it's awful, but that's what I did as a kid. I don't know if you relate. And then it wasn't until I started, inner work, really getting into this stuff. And by the way, guys, I'll make two recommendations here. Robert Johnson, who the Jungian psychologist who I mentioned just a few minutes ago, he wrote a book called Inner Work and another book that is phenomenal called Inner Gold, which I recommend strongly. These books are only 75, 80 pages long, but boy, oh boy, they're just filled with incredible insights into this whole topic that we're talking about here today, which is projection. What is this projection? So what happens is then we dump these aspects of ourselves that we just leave behind because we want to fit in. Now, as a kid, whether we're 12 or 15 or 16 or 18 or whatever age, we don't understand at that point in time that there's a massive difference between fitting in and belonging. When we belong to a tribe or to a community or to a group, we belong because we are a genuine match. There's a values overlap. There is a character or there's a genuineness about it. We're with like-minded people. We don't have to be something else. We can be unedited and unfiltered to a certain level. Whereas if we're fitting into a group just for the sake of getting in there, as kids, we would behave the way we had to behave in order to be accepted. Because as a kid, we don't know that the universal fears have got us. Like the universal fears of the fear of not being loved is the ultimate rejection. So we will sacrifice aspects of ourselves just to fit in so we can be accepted, which translates to love, but it's not really love. It's just being seen. The fear of not belonging. We all want to belong to something. No man or woman is designed to operate as an island. We all want to belong to a tribe, a community, a team, a group, a family, a country, something. And the fear of not being enough, we don't want to be out. We don't want to be rejected and be all on our lonesome and not belong to anything. Then are we going to be enough to survive? There's different ways of looking at these universal fears, right? So these universal fears of, am I enough? Do I belong and am I loved? These drive the human condition. And so we will behave in ways in order to fit in. So in the meantime, our inner gold, the beauty of us, gets dumped. Sometimes not all of it, but a lot of it. The darkness of us gets dumped. So then what happens is we get used to living like this from a psychological perspective. And then we spend our 20s and our 30s, and I dare say even our 40s, reclaiming the gold, reclaiming the power that we put into this big invisible bag that we carry around as our stash. And what happens is someone comes along and we admire them, we love them, we love these qualities. This is going to sound ludicrous, but do you remember the singer Kamal? And Kamal would always say, "Why are people so unkind?" And I used to adore Kamal for saying that. Why are people so unkind? I can't do his accent. If you don't remember Kamal, it's okay. And I might even have the name wrong. I hope that was his name. Kamal, I think. Anyway, he used to say this, why are people so unkind? And I used to be drawn to him, not because of him as a singer. I wasn't particularly a fan of him as a singer, but I was drawn to him because of that comment. And what it was the kindness and the goodness that I had dumped and deleted from my essence because it wasn't useful to me as a kid. Whereas as I was getting older in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, not only was it useful, it was just the right thing to do, right thing to be, is to be kind to people. So what happens is that when we get triggered by other people's qualities, whether those qualities are, triggered by someone being an idiot, or triggered by someone being incredibly kind, or being triggered by someone who is incredibly loving and patient or angelic, or being triggered by someone's anger or someone's rage, whatever it might be, these are aspects of ourselves that we have forgotten that are parts of us. And so projection is we can only see in others what we are being or what we have been. Anything that we have not been or are not being right now, we cannot see in another person. So all perception is projection. I often say in some of my trainings that it's like, we are all projectors and everyone else is our screen. And all we are seeing is aspects of ourselves that we have stopped owning, stopped taking responsibility for, stopped embracing. So reclaiming and reconnecting to this power, to our superpowers, to the essence of us, is about reclaiming the parts that we've left behind, the parts that we've disowned, the parts that we haven't taken responsibility for, the parts that we won't look within to notice. And if I can give you this tip, whatever floats across the screen of your mind as a thought, no matter how bright, light, dark, awful, or evil, whatever that thought is, acknowledge it. Don't suppress it. Don't ignore it. Don't even judge it. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge its existence, that it's okay, that that thought exists. It's just a thought. And sometimes what happens is the residue of some of the stuff that we've buried deep within us comes up in the most inappropriate times. It could come up in a movie that's engaged that within us. It could come up in a conversation that seems harmless, that suddenly we're becoming very, very intensely emotional. So the purpose of this particular episode is just to, I guess, have you connect to curiosity. Be connected to the curiosity of what is it? What parts of you have you disowned that you've stopped taking responsibility for, or parts of you that you need to reconnect with and re-own and have that be part of you again, So I hope this is helping you. I hope this is adding some kind of insight into understanding how projection works. I mean, have you noticed how it's easier to notice this in other people, by the way? It's easier when you're aware of these themes and patterns of projection. It's easier to see in somebody else. Like, it's easier to see in your friend and say, did you know that every time that so-and-so does that, you always react the same way? It's easier to see the projection through another person of how they're projecting themselves. But when it comes to ourselves, we're almost blind. So the purpose of this particular episode is, again, let me give you a recap. It's just to bring you into some awareness into what this perception and projection is all about. Is that as kids, our schooling system, the way that it is in mainstream, is we have to fit in. And the way that we fit in is we dump aspects of ourselves that we believe won't be useful or will prevent us from fitting in. As children, we don't know that there's a massive difference between fitting in and belonging. That if all we're doing is fitting into different groups and communities, just and sacrificing aspects of ourselves in order to be accepted, we're going to be living a life that is emotionally isolating because we're not being ourselves. Belonging to a tribe, belonging to a group, belonging to a family is incredibly vastly different. That's when we're being accepted for who we really are, warts and all. The beauty, the ugliness, the gold, the darkness, the light, whatever, the whole shebang. Love that. It's incredibly empowering when you can be with someone. And I'm talking about only a handful of people here in your life that you can be with, where you can be yourself and genuinely know that you're not being judged, that you can be completely unedited, unfiltered, be you. It's phenomenal. And that's the purpose of life, as I've said in past podcasts, is that the purpose of our lives is to be ourselves. But first of all, we have to reclaim all the aspects of ourselves that we dumped so we could fit in to these other tribes that we desperately want to be part of. So the rest of our lives, our 20s and 30s and 40s, is about reconnecting to those aspects of ourselves that we've disowned, stopped taking responsibility for, that it's time that we reclaim that power. And that requires inner honesty. It requires inner work. It requires robust, vulnerable, real conversations with people that you love and who love you. It's exploring all of that, and that's a big part of the journey of awareness. As I was told a long time ago, 95% of this journey is awareness, and it sure is. So I hope that insight sheds some light into this space. And as I said, Robert Johnson's book it's called Inner Gold is just a delight. It is a great, insightful book into projection. So, so I hope that helps you. So next time you notice something that triggers you, whether it's, God, that person is such a dick, or whether it's, oh, she's amazing, whatever you adore and whatever you hate, those extremes that trigger you, next time, bring insatiable curiosity to that moment, because you're noticing aspects of yourself that you've disowned. That's why the illusion is, that's not me, it's them. She's amazing because, and insert story here, it's all them, not me. Or that person's a real dick because and you're full of energy and emotion. Well, you can't see it within you because you've disowned that part of you as well. So life is all about reclaiming, reconnecting to all the aspects of us that have been part of us the whole time. And when you can do that and be that, now you live in the life of what I call a professional human being, someone who is not afraid of their emotions, someone who embraces whatever feeling comes up, knowing full well that whatever you're experiencing and feeling is completely and utterly normal. Because I've noticed the more of my inner world that I share with the people that I love, the more of my inner world that I share with you, the more of my inner world that I share with my clients and in my workshops, the more people come to me and say, oh my God, that's amazing. Not because I'm amazing, but it's not even because the content's amazing. It's because of what they're connecting with. Because our inner worlds are the bloody same, full of the same vulnerabilities, the same foibles, the same concerns, the same excitements, the same weirdness, the same lightness, the same darkness. It's all the bloody same. We're all different in our heads on the surface. We're all different. Just remember that whatever was put into your head was put there by somebody else. Whatever's in your soul, you put there. And it's time that you reclaim that. It's time that you reconnected to that. It's time that you embrace the courage to be you and just live your life as you. All projection that you see from the darkest of the dark to the lightest of the light are aspects of you and I that we have disowned and broken away from, that now it's time that we reclaim that and take that back. All right. So I hope you got value from today's insight. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. All perception is projection. And remember, next time you're triggered, just get curious and ask yourself a different series of questions and wonder how that could possibly be in you, because it is. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't feel the trigger. All right. Enjoy. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and looking forward to our next Insights episode. Bye for now. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you're thoroughly loving the journey of these messages, please feel more than welcome to leave a review. And be sure to leave a comment on what you've been learning and how useful this has been to you, and how you've been sharing this with those around you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.